When it comes to race in South Africa, I think there are very few questions that we can ask because people's lived experience itself speaks volumes of how far we've gone forward and how much we still remain behind. But you've been working with the data specifically, and what have you found?
Kath, we've looked at a range of figures from a range of different sources as well. A lot of stats coming out from Statistics South Africa, which is, of course, the government statistics agency. And we're really getting a sense of where we are as a country. First, I want to lay the groundwork, Cathy, in terms of the demographics, just to give you a sense of how we are looking as a country. Black African, 81%, colored 9%, the second highest demographic. White South Africans, 8%, Indian, Asian, 2.5%. So just bear those numbers in mind as we work through this, because as you'll see, Black Africans tend to be a majority when it comes to the population, when it comes to the demographics, when it comes to resources, they tend to be a minority, and that really is a big problem in South Africa. Now let's focus very quickly, Cathy, on poverty. That is something which Barack Obama addressed during his lecture just a little bit earlier. And what you're going to see, Cathy, is more than half of black South Africans are living below the poverty line. There, that figure is 64.2% of black South Africans living below that line. Colored South Africans, 41%. A tiny number of whites living in poverty, just 1%.
And Michael, as you talk about, the poverty numbers, it takes me back to the poverty trends survey that was released by South Africa last year. Yeah. And the amount of money that those people who are below the poverty line are actually living on per month. You're looking at less than 600 Rand within those households, 64% of South African households.
That's right, that's right. And that's just the upper limit of the poverty line. There are also classifications for extreme poverty where people are struggling even to feed themselves, Cathy. Solving that problem could be dependent on jobs. Unemployment, another big problem in this country, another big issue which Barack Obama addressed. We've all seen these signs outside of businesses in CBDs, no jobs, Cathy, and it remains a problem. But there is a racial bias, and that's what we're going to address right here. Unemployment in Q1, Cathy, 27%. Amongst black South Africans, it is higher than average, 30%. Compare that, for instance, to Indian or Asian South Africans and white South Africans, just under 7%. So again, the legacy of apartheid clear in this graph.
And just look at that difference, Michael, 6.9% and 30.1% on average. The difference is vast.
It is vast, and this next graph, Cathy, is really going to emphasize some of the issues that we are facing in terms of young people who are seeking those jobs and who are coming through. I mean, 60% of South Africans are under the age of 35. This is a very important demographic for our country. This is the NEET rate, Cathy. So this stands for not in education, employment, or training. So that's really young people who are not in a tertiary institution, for instance. They're not studying, they don't have jobs. 33% almost of young South Africans between the ages of 15 and 24 are not in employment, education, or training. And again, Cathy, you break it down by race and look what you get. Black African males, 30.3%. Compare that to white males, 14.7%. So proportionately almost double the NEET rate of white South African males. And if you look at it based on gender, and again, looking at it in terms of race, Cathy, black African females, almost 37% not in education, employment, or training. It's scary.
All right. So thanks for bringing us those numbers, Michael Marillier. And certainly they go a long way in adding to the conversation of just not painting a picture of what inequality looks like in South Africa, but I suppose taking it further, what can be done to bridge the gap between these two worlds that we very clearly currently are living in?